The sun hung lazily over the village of Bayside, painting the dusty pathways in gold. Children's laughter echoed in the distance as they chased each other barefoot, their little feet pounding against the earth like drums of joy. Under the shade of a wide mango tree sat Adana, a 12-year-old girl with eyes that sparkled like morning dew. She hummed a soft tune while playing with her prized possession, a rag doll stitched together from old cloth. Though the doll was rough and simple, to Adana it was as precious as gold. She cradled it gently, whispering stories into its fabric ears, stories of how she would one day become a nurse and help the sick people of her village. Not far from her, her mother, Ikaet, leaned against a mud wall of their clay house, arms folded proudly across her chest. She watched Adana with the pride of a queen, but it was pride mixed with stubbornness. To Ikaet, her daughter was already perfect. She believed the girl needed no guidance from outsiders, no discipline from teachers, and certainly no advice from neighbors. Two elderly women walked by, their wrappers tied firmly around their waists. They stopped, shaking their heads. "Ikaet," one of them called, "this child is bright. Let her go to school. Do not let pride rob her future." But Ikaet hissed and waved them off. "What do you know about raising a child? My Adana is destined for greatness. School is for those who lack blessings. She will learn everything she needs from me." Adana looked up, her big eyes flickering between her mother and the neighbors. She said nothing but continued playing, clutching her doll a little tighter, as though it were a shield against the rising tension. The neighbors walked away, whispering to each other in pity. The mother, however, stood firm, blinded by the comfort of her own certainty. She could not see the storm that lay beyond the sunshine of that day, nor the cracks already forming beneath her daughter's innocent laughter. That evening, as the firewood crackled and smoke spiraled into the darkening sky, Adana leaned against her mother's lap and whispered softly, "Mama, will I ever wear a school uniform like the other children?" Her mother brushed the question aside with a chuckle. "Child, you are special. You need no books to shine." And in that moment, beneath the star-filled sky, Adana's fate began its slow descent into tragedy, all because of mother's ignorance cloaked as pride. The rooster crowed at dawn, and the village slowly awoke to the rhythm of another day. Children hurried along the red earth path, balancing slates and books, their laughter and chatter filling the morning air. They wore neatly pressed uniforms, their sandals dusty from the road, but their eyes alive with hope. From the doorway of her hut, Adana watched them with longing. Her little hands clutched the edge of the wooden frame as she followed them with her gaze. Every morning, her heart pulled at her, urging her to join them, but her feet never moved, for her mother had forbidden it. Ikaet, her mother, noticed the way Adana's eyes trailed after the school children. She frowned. "Why do you stare at them so? They are wasting their time. Books do not cook soup. Books do not fetch water. Books do not make a man choose a wife. A woman's place is here in the home." Adana bit her lip, her small heart heavy with questions she dared not ask. Still one slipped out, timid but desperate. "But, Mama, if I learn to read, I can become a nurse. I can help people. I can help you." The word struck Ikaet like an insult. She turned sharply, her voice rising. "Enough! Do not let me hear you speak such foolishness again. Do you want to shame me before the villagers? Do you want them to think I cannot guide my own child? God has given you a mother. Is that not enough?" Adana's lips trembled, but she said no more. She simply lowered her head, clutching her rag doll tightly to her chest. That afternoon, as the sun burned high, Adana followed her mother to the stream to fetch water. Along the way, they passed the village school. From the open windows, Adana heard the children reciting lessons in unison, their voices rising like a sweet chorus. She paused, drawn to the sound, her eyes wide with yearning. But Ikaet noticed and tugged her sharply by the arm. "Do not look that way. Do not let knowledge poison your head. A girl who reads too much becomes stubborn and useless." The teacher, standing at the window, caught Adana's eyes. He smiled kindly, recognizing her hunger to learn. "Okay," he called out gently, "bring the girl tomorrow. She is bright. She can go far." But the mother turned her face away, her chin raised in stubborn pride. "No, teacher. My daughter will not waste her days on paper and chalk. She will learn the ways of the home, not the ways of books." The teacher sighed, shaking his head. Adana felt her heart sink, like a stone thrown into deep water. She wanted to cry, but the weight of her mother's grip silenced her. That evening, she sat by the fire, absent-mindedly rocking her rag doll. She whispered to it in the flickering glow of the flames. "One day, maybe someone will let me learn." But the smoke curled upward into the night, carrying her dreams away with it. Dreams stifled not by poverty, but by a mother's ignorance disguised as love. The season of harvest came, and with it, the village square grew lively. Drummers played beneath the iroko tree. Women sold roasted corn and palm wine, and traders displayed their goods on mats spread across the dust. Amid the color and chatter, a stranger arrived, a man dressed in fine flowing attire, his shoes polished, his wrist glittering with a gold watch. His name was Chief Okoro, and he came with the air of wealth and power. He spoke loudly, laughed easily, and his pockets overflowed with money. The villagers whispered in awe, but also in suspicion. Adana stood quietly beside her mother, holding her rag doll. Her innocent eyes widened at the sight of the stranger, but where the child felt unease, her mother saw opportunity. Chief Okoro approached Ikat with a broad smile. "Ah, madam, is this your daughter? Such beauty, such grace at a young age. The city needs children like her. Let me take her with me. She will live in Lagos. I will give her good clothes, fine food, and education." The crowd stirred uneasily. Neighbors exchanged worried glances. One old woman stepped forward and whispered urgently to Ikat, "Do not trust him. These men from the city make sweet promises, but they hide wickedness in their hearts. Keep your daughter close." But Ikat's pride bristled at the warning. She straightened her wrapper and laughed scornfully. "You are jealous. You do not want my daughter to succeed. This is the opportunity God has sent to us." Chief Okoro, sensing her eagerness, pulled out a bundle of money and placed it in Ikat's hand. Then he added gifts of rice, oil, and cloth. "See, I will not just speak with words. I act with action. Trust me, madam, your daughter will shine." Ikat's eyes glowed at the sight of the wealth. She clutched the money tightly, already imagining the respect she would gain in the village. But Adana felt a chill in her heart. She clung to her mother's wrapper and whispered fearfully, "Mama, I don't want to go. I want to stay with you." Her mother bent down, forcing a smile, though her voice was stern. "Hush, child. Do not speak nonsense before this great man. He will give you a better life than I ever could." Tears welled in Adana's eyes. She looked up at the villagers. Some shook their heads. Others looked away in pity. No one dared challenge Ikat's decision openly. That evening, as the sun sank low and the shadows lengthened across the earth, Chief Okoro's men loaded Adana's small bag into the back of an old, dented car. The girl held her rag doll tightly, refusing to let go. Her heart beat fast, torn between obedience and fear. The villagers stood by, silent witnesses to a tragedy about to unfold. An elder muttered under his breath, "Pride blinds the eyes, and ignorance digs a grave." Ikat waved proudly as the car engine roared to life. She believed she had secured her daughter's future. But Adana, through tear-filled eyes, felt only dread as the car rolled away, carrying her into a darkness she could not yet understand. And so, blinded by ignorance, a mother traded her child's innocence for false promises, the first true step into tragedy. The morning of Adana's departure was heavy with silence. The birds still sang, the rooster still crowed, but in her heart the world had grown dark. Her small bundle of clothes sat by the door, tied in a faded wrapper. She held her rag doll tightly, its cloth body damp from the tears she had shed through the night. Outside, Chief Okoro's old, dented car rattled and coughed as the driver checked the engine. A thin line of smoke curled from the exhaust into the morning air. Children from the village gathered at a distance, whispering and pointing. Some envied her, thinking she was heading for a better life. Others pitied her, sensing the shadow that followed. Adana stood by her mother, trembling. "Mama, she whispered. "I don't want to go. Please, let me stay with you. I can help at the farm. I can fetch water. I can do anything. Just don't send me away." But Ikat, blinded by the glitter of gifts and the illusion of prosperity, stroked her daughter's cheek with forced cheer. "Do not cry, my child. You will see the world, wear fine clothes, and eat food that even I have never tasted. You will thank me one day." Her words were tender, but her eyes carried the stubborn pride of a woman convinced she had made the right choice. Chief Okoro appeared, smiling as always, his gold watch gleaming in the sunlight. He motioned to the driver, and the car door creaked open. "Come, little one. Lagos awaits you," he said, his tone smooth but cold beneath the surface. Adana hesitated. She clung to her mother's wrapper one last time, her small voice breaking. "Mama, I'm afraid." Ikaet pushed her gently toward the car. "Go, my daughter. Obey. Do not shame me before this man." With shaking hands, Adana climbed into the back seat. She pressed her rag doll against her chest, as though it could shield her from the unknown. The car engine roared, and the vehicle lurched forward. Dust rose behind it as it rolled along the red earth road. Through the window, Adana's tear-filled eyes locked on her mother. She reached out with one hand, as if begging silently to be pulled back. But Ikat only waved proudly, smiling as though victory had been won. She did not see the sorrow etched into her daughter's face. The villagers stood nearby, watching the car disappear around the bend. An old man shook his head. "A hen does not know the value of her chick until a hawk carries it away." Inside the car, the road grew rough and winding. The laughter of Chief Okoro and his men filled the air. But Adana sat silently, her hands trembling over her rag doll. Her heart whispered that she was being taken away not to light, but into shadows too deep for her young soul to bear. That day, on that dusty road, the bond between mother and daughter was broken, not by death, not by distance, but by a mother's ignorance, disguised as love, carried away in a smoke-belching car. Lagos was nothing like the paradise Chief Okoro had promised. For a girl who had only known the quiet rhythms of her village, the city was a storm. Tall buildings loomed like watchful giants. The air was heavy with smoke, and the endless noise of horns and voices pressed against her ears until she longed for silence. Adana's first night was filled not with fine clothes and sweet food, but with labor. Chief Okoro had not brought her to be cared for. He had brought her to serve. His house was grand, with tile floors and bright lights, but for Adana, it was a cage. She was given a tiny mat in the corner of the kitchen. Her days began before dawn and ended long after nightfall. She scrubbed floors until her small hands bled, fetched water until her back ached, and washed clothes heavier than her own body. When she moved too slowly, she was shouted at, sometimes struck. Her rag doll, the last piece of her childhood, became her only comfort. She hid it under her thin mat, bringing it out when no one was looking, whispering to it as if it were a friend. "One day, Mama will come for me, one day," she whispered, though her heart no longer believed the words. At meal times, she watched the household eat richly, rice, meat, stew, while she was given leftovers, sometimes only scraps. Hunger gnawed at her belly, but fear silenced her lips. Weeks turned into months, and her bright eyes grew dim. The once playful child who dreamed of becoming a nurse was now a shadow, her laughter stolen by endless chores and cruelty. One afternoon, as she scrubbed the marble floor, her knees raw and her fingers swollen, a housemaid passing by sneered at her. "Village rat, you thought you were coming here for enjoyment. Eh? See your life now." The words pierced Adana's fragile heart. She lowered her head, tears dropping onto the soapy water. She wanted to scream, to run, to go back to her mother's lap, even if it meant never seeing a schoolbook again. But there was no going back. Chief Okoro's house was a prison with invisible bars. No one asked her what she wanted. No one cared about her dreams. At night, when the house finally grew quiet, Adana curled into herself, clutching her rag doll with trembling hands. In the darkness, she prayed silently, "God, please tell Mama I am not happy. Please make her come for me." But her prayers faded into the cold walls, unanswered. The city swallowed her voice, just as it swallowed her innocence. And so, in the very place where she had been promised joy, Adana found only silent suffering, a childhood stolen, a spirit crushed, all because of her mother's blind trust in a stranger's words. The years passed like shadows moving across a wall, silent, unstoppable, and merciless. Adana was no longer the bright-eyed girl who once played beneath the mango tree. The city had drained her, leaving only a fragile body and a spirit scarred by pain. Her hands, once soft and small, were now rough with burns and scars from endless scrubbing and cooking. Her feet were cracked from carrying buckets of water over long distances. Her face, which once glowed with innocence, was now pale and sunken, her eyes carrying a sadness too heavy for a child. The rag doll remained her only companion, though it too bore the marks of her suffering. Its seams were loose, its cloth torn, but she kept it close, as though the only reminder that she had once been loved. Illness crept upon her slowly, like nightfall swallowing the day. A persistent cough shook her body, her chest burned with every breath, and her thin frame wasted away. Chief Okoro's household noticed, but no one cared. She was no longer useful, a weak servant, too frail to carry out the endless chores. One evening, as rain lashed against the city's rooftops, Adana lay on her thin mat, shivering. Her breaths came in short, painful gasps. She clutched her rag doll to her chest, whispering in the darkness, "Mama, where are you? You promised to love me. Why did you let me go?" Her words dissolved into the sound of thunder, unheard by anyone who might have cared. When morning came, her body was weaker still. She tried to rise, but her legs would not hold her. Her strength had abandoned her completely. Alone, in a dim corner of the kitchen, she curled herself into a ball, her doll pressed tight against her chest. The last thing she remembered was a flicker of sunlight breaking through the cracked window, warming her face for the first time in many days. With a faint smile, the kind only the dying can wear, she whispered one final time, "Mama, I forgive you." And then silence. Her small body went limp, her breath fading into nothingness. When the housemaids found her hours later, they muttered among themselves with irritation, not sorrow. At last, the sick rat has died. One less burden for the house. They wrapped her in an old cloth and carried her away without ceremony, without tears. Her little body was discarded as though her life had meant nothing. But in that lifeless form lay the shattered dreams of a child who only wanted to learn to live, to love. A child destroyed not only by the cruelty of strangers, but by the ignorance of the one person who was meant to protect her. And so, Adana's story ended, not in glory, not in joy, but in tragedy. Her last breath carried her dreams into the silence of eternity, dreams never fulfilled, cut short by a mother's blindness. Back in Aikita Bayside, life went on as it always had. The children still ran along the dusty paths, the elders still gathered beneath the irako tree, and the women still sang as they pounded yam. But in the midst of this, Ikat carried herself with pride. Whenever neighbors asked after Adana, she lifted her chin and boasted, "My daughter is in Lagos. She is living well. Soon she will return with fine clothes and money. You will all see that I was right to trust the city man." Though she had not received a letter, nor seen her daughter since the day the car carried her away, she believed her own words. To admit doubt would mean admitting she had been wrong, and Ikayat's pride was too heavy for that. But the truth has a way of arriving, even when uninvited. One humid afternoon, a traveler from Lagos came to the village. His clothes were dusty, his face weary. He stopped at Ikayat's hut and asked quietly, "Are you the mother of a girl named Adana?" Her heart leapt. She smiled proudly, expecting to hear of her daughter's success. "Yes, that is my child. Tell me, is she doing well? Has she become someone great already?" The man's expression darkened. He lowered his voice, almost as if ashamed to speak. "I am sorry, madam. The girl you sent away, she is dead. She suffered much. She was not cared for. She died sick and alone." The word struck Ikayat like a thunderbolt. She staggered back, her hands trembling, her mouth opening and closing with no sound. No, it cannot be. My Adana? Dead? No, You lie. But the man shook his head and gave her the only thing left, Adana's rag doll, worn and torn, the last possession she had clutched in death. When Ikayat saw the doll, recognition shattered her denial. It was the very toy she had sewn for her daughter years ago. She pressed it to her chest, her body convulsing with sobs. Neighbors rushed out as her wails split the air. She tore her wrapper, fell to her knees in the dust, and struck her chest with her fists. My child, my Adana, I killed you with my own ignorance. Oh, God, why did I not listen? Why did I not protect you? The villagers gathered, some weeping softly, others shaking their heads in anger. One old woman spoke bitterly. We warned you, Ikayat. We told you not to trust that man. But your pride was louder than our voices. Ikayat placed both hands on her head, rocking back and forth in anguish. If only I had listened. If only I had let her go to school. If only. Her words broke into incoherent cries. The rag doll slipped from her grip, falling into the dust, its stitched smile mocking the tragedy. From that day forward, Ikayat was never the same. She wandered the village like a shadow, her eyes hollow, her voice hoarse from weeping. No amount of gifts, no pride, no excuse could